Let's go. Turn left. Go straight. exit left.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here with you this fine and bright Sunday. Well, sort of bright, isn't it? Bright Sunday morning. It's 3 minutes past 10. I'll be here with you until 1. Now, the world of politics has been rocked. Is that an exaggeration to say it's been rocked by this defection of a Conservative MP to Labour? There's certainly a hint of parting like it's the 1990s, isn't there, in this? Because in the major government there were several defections from the Conservatives to Labour. This is the second one in this Parliament. Christian Wakeford, he defected from the Conservatives to Labour. Was it last year or the year before? Well, Dr. Dan Poulter, he's the Conservative MP for do you think was behind this? Some people are saying, well, he will want to continue working in the NHS and maybe get a big job under Labour in some way. Maybe they could put him in the House of Lords, make him a health minister in the House of Lords. There's always that possibility, I suppose. You never quite know what goes on behind closed doors as to what offers are made. Christian Wakeford, the only other Tory MP that's defected to Labour in this Parliament, he was almost immediately made a Labour Party whip, so sort of first step on the shadow ministerial ladder. Whether the two things were connected, well, you make your own judgment. Chris is in Richmond. Hi, Chris.
Hello. Well, I think the last point you made is interesting, right, because there isn't really a lot in it for him personally. Right, he's got his NHS career and he's going to leave Parliament pretty soon, so there's potentially some ulterior motive, but that's life. Right, people move from LBC to Sky and vice versa, so I think that's fair game. In terms of the state of the parties, well, the timing could not be worse for Rishi Sunak. But one thing I would question is, if Dan Coulter felt so strongly about the state of the NHS, he knew how things were in 2019, in 2020 and 2021, and the disaster was happening with COVID. Why didn't he jump ship then?
I think, and I don't want to put words into his mouth, but reading all newspaper coverage of this morning, I think he would say that at that point he wasn't working in mental health services, but for the last year he has been, and it's that that's tipped him over the edge.
Well, and I would agree with him, right? I've started depression myself. I've still got my invoice for £4,000 from the Priories in 2014. There are millions of people sitting on waiting list, and I think what he didn't seem to mention in his interview, which I know has angered a lot of people in the mental health and charity space, is the government's sick no Britain culture, when millions of people can't get NHS treatment, and that's why they can't work. They're not physically able to, and they're not well enough to. But Rishi Sunak doesn't seem to understand that.
Well, I don't know what proportion you would put into that category, but it does seem odd, doesn't it, that over the last, 7 years, the number of long-term sick has actually doubled. Now, you can put partly that down to lack of support on mental health, but I don't think you can lay the doubling at that door, can you?
Well, it's a combination of things, right? It's the fact that we're living in more and more in a gig economy. I mean, I'm lucky I've got a house in a good area, mortgage largely paid off. There's plenty of people living on very low, insecure salaries. The Uber drivers, the restaurant deliverers, etc., etc. Millions of people don't even have a penny of savings in the bank, and that financial stress is clearly causing people lots of problems. It's also people tipped over because they cannot make ends meet. There are children having to be fed by schools because their parents simply haven't got enough cash.
I think you're wanted on the phone, Chris.
No, it's my car.
Oh. Okay, thank you very much indeed for your call. Let's go to Elizabeth in Windsor. Elizabeth, hi.
Hi, Ian. How are you?
Good. What would you like to say?
Okay, I've been writing down some notes I've told you before. Okay, so my husband's child polio, I'm a child senior nursing who works for John Radcliffe and lecturer at Oxford University. Now, first of all, John Porter. John Porter was junior health secretary for 2.5 years between September 2012 and March 2015. Okay, Cameron. He said in his resignation that he was very annoyed and angry that no Prime Minister since Cameron, because he came in for Cameron in 2010, no Prime Minister would listen to his good advice. Now you have to remember that
Caution. Please mind the speed.
started off training as a junior doctor when he came in Oxford School Down Coventry. Then he stopped off with a minute was an MP for a bit. Then he sort of ceased to disappoint to A&E,
NHS, and given that you've got several things completely wrong in this conversation, I don't. Well,
I'm not completely wrong.
well, you said he joined Change UK and he didn't.
No, I said some people are saying that didn't he change UK over Brexit?
Well, he didn't. No.
No, well, I know. That's what I'm saying. I didn't say that. I'm saying there is a question with some of the comments coming out from various people in the party who are there now, saying didn't he? We thought he'd left and gone to Change UK, but I suppose he's back in the NHS working that.
Whenever an MP defects, obviously people from the party that he or she defects from are going to slag them off. I mean, that is natural. And then people who are in the party that they go to welcome them with open arms, even though the week before they might have criticised them for saying things that they completely disagree with.
So do you think the Guardian article is incorrect?
Well, I don't. Which bit of it? I haven't got it in front of me.
Well, what it said there that he'd been meeting with the Guard, speaking to David for quite a long time about leaving.
Well, I think that's probably true. Most people don't just defect on the day that they decide to. They will have had conversations, and of course the suspicion is that when an MP has conversations with a rival party about defection, they always want something, and we never get to know the truth of that, in all honesty.
No, you don't, but everybody's speculating. So the thing that came out in the headline yesterday was senior Tory, which he isn't, he's just been sitting in the backbenches since 2010, senior Tory resigned, making a damning statement about Rishi Sunak, and this is a body blow to Rishi Sunak. Now, I'm sorry, I don't agree with any of that, because I'm on the executive of the Windsor Association. I actually really don't. I think this is contrived nonsense coming out by, the various...
Well, it is a blow to Rishi Sunak. It's not. You can't say it's anything else but a... Well, whenever an MP defects, it's a blow to the party that they defect from.
Yeah, but if you've got somebody going around sniping, it's like the whole CDO and all that stuff. I don't understand. I come from medicine, so I don't understand why, if you're in a team, you want to go and kill your leader. But anyway, I find it bizarre. But if Poulter wanted to resign for such a long time, why did he choose now? And if he, according to the Guardian, they discussed when...
Well, it's obvious. It's obvious, isn't it? Because it's 4 days before the local elections. For that, June in Wimbledon says, I understand that the doctor who's defected to Labour is known as Mr. Invisible by his constituents. Not much of a loss then. On the other hand, somebody else has texted, and I can't find it now, saying that he's been a very good constituency MP. So you pay your money, you takes your choice. We'll have more of your calls on this in just a moment. What are the political implications of this defection? Maybe there aren't any. I don't think there will be necessarily in the short term, but you can't describe it as anything other than a blow to Rishi Sunak in the short term, can you? 0345 6060 973. Rick texts to say maybe, just maybe, he's had enough of the completely corrupt and rotten current Conservative Party, full of its individual ambition, absent of any sense of duty to the country, and can't continue to be part of it. Let's get the latest news headlines. It's 10:30. Jenny Barsby's here.
Labour's denied claims by Rishi Sunak that his plan to send migrants to Rwanda is starting to have a deterrent effect. The Prime Minister claims the proof can be seen in Ireland, where it's claimed there's been a rise in asylum seekers from the UK going there. A man in his 40s has died following a parachute incident in County Durham. Police are treating his death as unexpected and are asking for anyone being near Shotton yesterday afternoon to check their dashcam footage. And a memorial is being created to honour Muslim soldiers who served for Britain during the First and Second World Wars. It's set to be erected at the National Memorial Arboretum in Staffordshire. LBC weather, a very wet day for England with heavy rain at times, sunshine and showers elsewhere across the UK, and a top temperature of 13 degrees.
This is LBC. Here's an offer from Volkswagen we think you'll approve of. Get 5.9% APR representative on an all-electric approved used Volkswagen ID4 or ID5 up to 36 months old on Solutions PCP and 2 years servicing. Your Volkswagen approved used retailer will also include 2 years warranty and 2 years roadside assistance as standard. And all
miles with activation. ID4 and ID5 models only. Volkswagen Finance. There it is, sat round doing nothing. That old lump sum. But what if you could get it moving with a Shawbrook savings account? Suddenly, it's looking healthier. It finally got off its AER. So stand up and take notice of our notice accounts. Bond with our fixed rate bonds, or take it easy with easy access. Save smarter, not harder with Shawbrook. Spark your interest today at shawbrook.co.uk. Shawbrook Bank is authorised by the Prudential Regulation Authority and regulated by the FCA and PRA.
Isn't it funny how some things in life are good when they're high, but others are good when they're low? Take exam grades, for example. Those are good when they're high. But your 5K time, now that's much better low. With Waitrose new lower prices, you can get the best of the highs and the lows. Because hundreds of good, high-quality favourites, like chicken breast, potatoes and unsalted butter, are now at a new, lower price. Waitrose. Food to feel good about. Selected stores, subject to availability. Prices may vary in Little Waitrose, Channel Islands and concessions.
The McDonald's Chicken Big Mac is back, but not for long. So don't miss out on the 3 layers of soft bun. Don't miss out on the iconic, delicious Big Mac sauce, those crisp, tender chicken patties, that fresh shredded lettuce, that melty cheese. And don't miss those delicious gherkins. Unless you want to take them out. Don't regret it. Get it. From 11 a.m. until the 28th of May. Subject to availability. Participating restaurants only.
I never liked her anyway.
He's clearly a narcissist.
Well, she stopped. She's seeing the kids.
He negotiates for a living. Lawyer up and protect yourself.
We get it. You mean well. But when someone you love gets divorced, saying these things does more harm than good. That's where we come in. Amicable is a legal service that makes divorce kinder and simpler. No demonising, no aggression. Just better outcomes for everyone. Amicable.co.uk. Divorce made kinder.
Leading Britain's conversation. Ian Dale. Tweet at LBC.
10:34. Keeper calls coming on the defection of Dr. Dan Poulter from the Conservatives to Labour. We've so far concentrated mainly on the political fallout from this, but I'd like to also have some calls on what he says about the state of the NHS. I mean, he hasn't said anything new in the sense that we've heard a lot of this before from people who work in the NHS, but when a serving MP also works in the NHS says it does add something to the level of evidence, doesn't it? 0345 6060 973. But before we come to yours on that, I just want to have a quick word about what's going on in Scotland and the precarious state of the position of Scotland's First Minister Hamza Yousaf, because I was reading the Sunday Times on the way in this morning, and there's on page 2 a big article about Alex Salmond, the leader of Alapa. They are going to demand from Hamza Yousaf that well, in fact, I'm going to let Brian Taylor tell us what they're demanding, because he can put it far better than I can. Political commentator and columnist at the Herald. And Brian joins me now. Brian, very good morning. Do you think that Alex Salmond and Alapa are slightly overplaying their hand in some of the demands that they're likely to make of Hamza Yousaf?
I think they're overplaying it initially, and then I think they might back down to some extent. I mean, what Alex Salmond has been seeking with Alapa since he joined them, having been, of course, the former First Minister and the leader of the SNP, has been to get them noticed, to get them attention, to get them seen as part of the wider independence movement. Given the way in which he left, the manner in which he left the SNP are pretty disinclined to play. Now, his argument is you could have the SNP getting the first votes in the Scottish Parliament as the constituency seats, and maybe Alapa could pick up someone on the list. He wants into the game. He wants a dog in the race, any cliche you care to use. The SNP are decidedly disinclined to give it to him. But guess what? It points the way that perhaps Alex Salmond needs that deal with, to some extent, he's rolling out the idea of being some sort of pact as there was with the Greens, but perhaps an agreement to it, and at least enable him to continue in office. But it really is looking very, very difficult indeed for Hamza Yousaf. Very indeed. Both he wrote to the opposition parties saying, okay, I'm not going to back the Greens anymore, can we talk? But it was also the Tories talking sole exception of Labour, I don't think they really want an early Scottish general election to add to the pending UK general election. You know what? I think it might be like, remember that famous Vox pop with that woman in Bristol who said, "What, another one?" You know, I think
that's the second mention Brenda's had on the programme today.
I think the spirit of Brenda might revive in Scotland, maybe with a Glasgow or an Edinburgh accent. Another one. They don't really want it. You know what? The Tories don't want it if they think about it seriously, because they're in some difficulty across the UK. The Greens don't want it. It's forward from the SNP, and that ain't easy either.
No, and I suppose here we all assume that it would be Kate Forbes, but that may be out of date. What's your view?
The presumption would be Kate Forbes. She came second in the leadership contest a year ago, just a short year ago. What a hell of a year! I would say Yusuf as in Joe. I mean, she came second in that. Could she command the confidence of the Greens? She absolutely Christian background, and they just couldn't up with how they could not put. So she would have a difficulty commanding a majority as well. Then you're looking at some other names, Mary McCallum, Neil Gray, others, but there's a lot of steps to be gone through before the path is clear. And right now, of course, everyone in the SNP, I mean everyone, is saying that they support Hamza Yusuf and they're backing him to stay in power. Funny thing occurs to me as well, is that I think it's actually more in the interest of the SNP MPs to have broken the pact with the Greens. It allows them to project, SNP policies on the economy, etc., and perhaps get off the gender topics that were beginning to dog them. And of course, the MPs are facing that pending election. It's more in their interests. It's not really in the interests of the MSPs who are sitting looking slightly bemused and frightened at the entire thing.
And these votes will take place on Tuesday afternoon, is that right?
There'll be a meeting on Tuesday. Certainly, the meeting of the Business Bureau is usually on Tuesday, though they might bring that forward, I suppose. So we're looking at Wednesday, more likely Thursday, before the confidence votes are taken. Again, it is very, very flexible, and that could change if there are developments in the next few days. But I would guess in the next week they need to come to it at some point. The rules and regulations of the Scottish Parliament are designed to keep it going, to sustain it, to stress that it is a parliament of minorities, not a majoritarian parliament. But the idea that in past agreements between various parties, the atmosphere is just totally different, and it's completely toxic now, and it seems very, very difficult to strike a deal between members of the same party, let alone between different parties.
Well, I would love this vote to be on Thursday, because I've got 8 hours
Palestinian orchards in Israel.
In the 1940s, you're absolutely right on that point.
Yes, I'm just making a point. They're not our friends. We shouldn't
Are
be
the French our friends?
Probably not. Not particularly.
Oh, you agree with Liz Truss then?
Yeah, but why? We haven't got a treaty with this country. We haven't got a treaty with Israel. It's none of our business.
Well, the point that you made about the £43 million worth of arms, yes, we did. I've got it here from Reuters. The UK sold 43 million in arms to Israel in 2022-2023. Now, that is not the UK government selling arms, it's UK arms manufacturers selling arms, and you have to make the distinction, don't you?
So, despite mentioning this on this conversation, that we spent millions shooting down those drones, you won't forget about that. That's what we spent.
What do you mean forgetting about it? I think it's entirely the right thing to do.
Yeah, but we spent money doing it.
Of course we
Mind
do.
the speed limit.
So we...
But that's not donating UK taxpayers' money. I mean, the Ukraine point, I disagree with it, but I can see the logic of your argument there. But on this one, given that the UK government doesn't
Please mind the speed
give
limit.
money or arms to Israel, it's a very weak point, if I may say so.
No, it's not. So we spent more, probably, than 43 million shooting down those drones, believe it or not.
Well, I don't know how much it costs to shoot down a drone.
Please mind the speed limit.
No, it's not a waste of money when it saves innocent lives.
It didn't save any innocent
But
lives.
you don't know that. Well, frankly, nor do I, because we don't know where they would have hit. But presumably they were meant to cause damage.
Yes, and they were given 3 days notice that those drones are on the way.
Where do you get that? Where do you get that from? I'm just asking you. You've made an assertion. I'm just asking you where you got that from, because I haven't heard that it was 3 days. You may be absolutely right. I've got no idea.
Yes, well, all right, so the listeners could just go on Google and find out from multiple sources that it was 3 days.
Fine. All I did was ask you where you got that information from. You go off on one.
So, the 12 billion, so
let's
you're going
find
to
a new
argue
route.
about this figure, the 12 billion we've sent to Ukraine, that shouldn't be
straight.
spent on the NHS.
No, it shouldn't.
Good.
I mean, I haven't heard of 12 billion. We've committed 3 billion a year, and I thought the figure was 3 billion in the 2022-3 tax year and 3 billion in the following one. But you're saying it's double that. Again, I'm happy to accept that if that's right, absolutely fine. But I don't think it's an either or. You could make an argument for spending no money on anything apart from the NHS, but that would be facile too, wouldn't it?
Oh no, that 12 billion could have been spent on all the gazillions of potholes in the country, on the roads.
Well, I think the government has spent an extra $2.5 billion on that, which I would have thought ought to be quite enough.
Well, it's not. Everyone can see with their lying eyes that it's not.
Fine. Well, if you want to spend that, you think that should come from the budget that we're using to help Ukraine. I don't. I think it's very important that this country joins with its allies to make sure that the Russian invasion of Ukraine does not prevail.
So, Vladimir Putin just woke up one morning and decided to invade Ukraine. So there was
No, he didn't.
2,000...
He had been planning it for a long time.
Yes, and he's been warning us for a long time.
Never mind.
Not to try and
find a new
He
route.
capitalised on what he perceived
right.
as the weakness of the West. He didn't believe that the West would react in the way that we have, and therefore thought the invasion could be over with very, very quickly. Well, he judged that wrongly, didn't he?
No, he didn't, no, because there already was an agreement very, very early on that Boris Johnson went over to Ukraine and stopped it.
No, that's Putin propaganda, and I'm not going to have any more Putin propaganda perpetrated by you, John, I'm afraid, not least because I'm 5 minutes late to go to a break, so that's what we're going to do now. It's 10 to 11.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC. She's done it again. Veteran campaigner Dame Esther Ransom joins me on the day of a key debate on assisted dying and explains why a full vote would be her heartfelt wish.
I hope people will no longer have to watch people they love helpless, unable to assist them when people are asking for an assisted death, and I hope things will change.
Don't miss the full
you. Our kids are 8. Or, as Eddie says, 96 months. He moved off grid. Can confirm he's still on grid. And he's got another one on the way. He won't have the coverage to live stream the birth, will he?
Well, here at Tesco Mobile, we've made sure he has 99% network coverage. So he could if he wanted to.
Oh, sign me up.
It pays to be connected. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps. Over 99% UK population coverage on 4G.
You need protection? Take my number, son. Things get a bit lively. I can have 10 fellas down to your gaff pronto. And these boys don't muck about. You need digital life protection? Well, that's a different story. And you need Bitdefender. Complete security for your digital life. Trusted by the experts, used by the pros.
Bitdefender, a global leader in cybersecurity. Trusted, always.
Head to bitdefender.co.uk now. I will not ask you again.
Kayak, the flight comparison site, can also help you find great deals on car hire, at home or on your holes. So whether you're roaming the streets of Paris, cruising the coasts of Paphos, or packing the family off to Penzance, Kayak compares great deals from major car rental sites quicker than you can say which way to the beach. Great deals on car hire, at home or on your holes. Search Kayak and go see for yourself.
I never liked her anyway.
He's clearly a narcissist.
Well, she stopped. She's seeing the kids.
He negotiates for a living.
Lawyer and protect yourself.
We get it. You mean well. But when someone you love gets divorced, saying these things does more harm than good. That's where we come in. Amicable is a legal service that makes divorce kinder and simpler. No demonizing, no aggression, just better outcomes for everyone. Amicable.co.uk. Divorce made kinder.
The world is facing a shortage of tradespeople. The metaverse can help solve that problem. With a virtual reality training platform developed by ForgeFX, aspiring welders can practice over and over. As a result, students learn the specialized skills they need to begin and advance welding careers. Meta and the metaverse are having impact today.
What to do when you've got no plans? Well, on just a short train ride, you can open the door to a mind-blowing, musical, and inspiring gallery, or an underground cocktail bar behind a secret door. Sorry, wrong door. From unique nightlife to world-class galleries, jump on a Southern Railway train and open the door to more this spring. Book tickets and pay no booking fees at southernrailway.com, where every stop is a story.
This is LBC. Message Ian Dale on WhatsApp now on 0345 6060 973.
And Karen has done just that, saying, I was thinking at some point in that conversation with John, I tell him to go to hell. He kept very calm. Well, sometimes in those kind of conversations, I must admit that I don't keep very calm, but it's probably wisest to try and do so, isn't it? Anyway, I did let that go off on a few tangents there, which was very self-indulgent, but I think it was fun, wasn't it? Let's go to Mary in Hemel Hempstead. Hello, Mary.
Recomputing.
Good morning, Ian.
Morning.
With regard to the doctor, I don't understand why he's done it now. Because I don't know what he's supposed to prove. I mean, he was going to stand down. It's almost obvious that the Labour Party is going to win the next election. So I just don't understand what he's hoping to achieve. And I really don't put all the blame. I don't like Rishi Sunak, and I was a Tory voter for many years. But I really feel it's a bit unfair that Sunak's being blamed for everything. Because as far as I'm concerned, most of our troubles have stemmed from the time when David Cameron was in power. I think that's where it's all just the chickens are coming home to roost now for everything that he did that was wrong.
Well, if you're the Prime Minister, the buck stops with you, and it may be unfair sometimes, but I mean that is just the world we live in, where the Prime Minister has to be accountable for.
Caution. Please
want to win over the pensioner vote, that's probably a good way to do it. But is it the right thing to do? 0345 6060 973.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
Stay low.
From Global's newsroom at 11 o'clock, Labour has denied Rishi Sunak's claim that his Rwanda plan is now working as a deterrent. The Prime Minister claims the proof can be seen in Ireland, where it's reported there's been a rise in asylum seekers from the UK going there. Wes Streeting, Labour's Shadow Health Secretary, has told LBC the fact small boats are still crossing the channel shows Rwanda is not a deterrent.
You'll be able to judge the success of Rishi Sunak's Rwanda plan this summer as the small boats continue to arrive, and he has to explain to the country why it's costing £2 million per asylum seeker to send them to Rwanda, why he spent £250 million on this scheme before a single flight took off.
Meanwhile, the Prime Minister's defended his record on the health service after one of his MPs defected to Labour because of the state of the NHS. Dan Poulter, who works part-time as a mental health clinician, says he felt he could no longer look his colleagues and patients in the eye. Jim Pickard, chief political correspondent at the Financial Times, told LBC this is bad news for the Conservatives, even if they say it isn't.
He was a pretty low-profile person in Westminster, and the Conservatives are pretending they don't care, and they're sort of saying that there's barely no dissent. But what I've made very clear is that anyone crossing the floor to the opposite party is a major political blow.
An investigation's continuing in County Durham after a man in his 40s died in what police are describing as a parachute incident. Detectives are asking anyone who was driving near Shotton yesterday afternoon to check their dashcam footage. Huge rallies have been held across Australia for a second day, calling for tougher laws for gender violence. There have been a spate of attacks on women in the country this year, including 5 who were stabbed to death at a shopping centre in Sydney earlier this month. Former Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull attended one rally and said change is urgently needed.
We really have to make sure that men respect women and that men do not respect other men or disrespect women. So there's a huge role in this event, not just the perpetrators, but also friends, relatives, employers, colleagues, men who commit these crimes, and they have to be held to account.
And hundreds of Border Force officers begin 4 days of strike action tomorrow over changes to their working conditions. The walkout by members of the Public and Commercial Services Union will affect Terminals 2, 3, 4 and 5 at Heathrow. They say the new rota system would lead to 250 job losses.
LBC Weather.
With Ripple Energy. Climate action you can be proud of.
Wet for England today with heavy rain at times, sunshine and showers elsewhere across the UK, and a top temperature of 13 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Jenny Busby.
Oh, must be the new parent posse chat. We're not even new. Our kids are 8. Or, as Eddie says, 96 months. He moved off grid. Can confirm he's still on grid. And has got another one on the way. He won't have the coverage to live stream the Earth, will he?
Well, here at Tesco Mobile, we've made sure he has 99% network coverage. So he could if he wanted to.
Oh, sign me up.
It pays to be connected. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps. Over 99% UK population coverage on 4G.
This is LBC from Global with Ian Dale.
Hello, a very good morning. It's 4 minutes past 11 on LBC. It's Ian Dale here with you until 1. Now, ask yourself this question. Which group of voters is the most likely to turn out and actually vote on polling day? It's older voters, the over 65s, particularly the over 75s. So it should come as no surprise that all political parties tend to give a little bit of priority to the older vote because they know that they hold their fortunes in their hands. So when Jeremy Hunt, Chancellor, promised to continue the pensions triple lock, I don't think anyone was particularly surprised. Well, today, Keir Starmer has done the same thing. And where has he done it? Well, he's done it in the national newspaper that has the oldest demographic of any of them, and it's the Sunday Express. And he's guaranteed the pensions triple lock for 5 years, the first 5 years of the Labour government. Now, in itself, is that news? Well, I suppose it is if you're a pensioner and you really cherish the triple say, well, how actually is this going to be paid for? Because Rachel Reeves, the Shadow Chancellor, is absolutely adamant that she is not going to loosen the purse strings. Now, she must have signed off on this, keeping the pensions at triple lock. So I just wonder, I shall be asking this, we've got her coming in to do another phone on our evening show, I think on the 7th of May. So she'll certainly be putting this to her then. But do the economics stack up for continuing the pensions triple lock, particularly when, if you look at the over 65s as a segment of the population, is the richest segment of the population overall. Now, that doesn't mean to say that there isn't pensioner poverty. There absolutely is. But overall, compared to the younger sections of the population, the pensioner population is the most cash-rich and asset-rich. So therefore, does it make economic sense for this to continue? I can see that it makes political sense, but does it make economic sense? And I say that not wishing to insult any pensioners and not wishing to give the impression that I don't think that there are poor pensioners out there, because I absolutely do. But the government can't look at these things through individual circumstances. They have to have a policy that applies to groups of people. So if you were Keir Starmer, would you have done this? You would have done it politically, wouldn't you? But would you have done this from an economic point of view? Really interested to hear your views. 0345 6060 973. Well, let's get some insight into this from two people who really know their economic onions. Lord Willits, David Willits joins us, Conservative peer, now the president of the Resolution Foundation. David, very good morning. Now, the pensions triple lock has been in existence for quite a long time now. Has it outlived its original purpose, though?
Yes, I think it has outlived its purpose. I mean, it was set up by David Cameron in 2010, and his argument then was that the basic state pension, the value of the pension, had fallen behind other benefits, and that with very low interest rates, pensioners with savings in their local bank building society weren't getting any return, so we needed to look after them. But I think politicians should now declare victory and move on, because, as you rightly said in your introduction, I mean, the average income after housing costs of a pensioner is, if anything, now higher than for a working age family, and the poorest 20% of pensioners are better off than the poorest 20% of families. So it's no longer the case that being a pensioner equals being poor, and this is an expensive long-term commitment. It's done its job. We don't need to repeat it.
How much is it costing?
Well, it's hard to say, but we're talking over years of billions of pounds. And in reality, that money comes out of benefits for younger people, because there are limits to how much governments will spend on social security. So the figures that I think capture what has happened is that since 2010, prices and earnings have actually risen by almost exactly the same amount, 48% increase in both. Pensioner payments from the benefit system have gone up by 60%, significantly more than prices and earnings. But benefits for working age families have gone up by 30%, significantly less than prices and earnings. And I do think that in reality, you say, politically it's obvious, we know now from some polling there's a lot of pensioners that are increasingly worried about the prospects for their children and grandchildren, and want to see policies that help their kids and grandkids. They don't want to become even more prosperous at their children and grandchildren's expense.
But it is right that our pensions are among the or state pensions are among the lowest in Europe, isn't it? And it might be more palatable for politicians to say, well, we're not actually going to keep the triple lock, but we are going to put pensions up by X% to compensate for that.
Well, in many European countries, sadly now, have got greater GDP per head, so there are benefits for families as well as higher on the continent than here. The government, I think what the government should do, which is fair all round, is to say we don't want to see pensioners losing out. We don't want to see pensions falling behind in the rest of
the other point of view, let's hear from Professor Jonathan Portes, Professor of Economics at King's College London. Jonathan, very good morning to you. You've heard the arguments that David Willetts puts forward there. I mean, quite convincing in some ways, aren't they?
They are, and I agree with David on a lot of this stuff, actually. So I'm not going to contradict him completely. But I think the most important point to make here is that inequality in the UK is not and has not been about inequality between generations. It's true there are rich pensioners. And it's true, as you said, Ian, there are poor pensioners. There are also rich people in work and poor people in work or out of work. And those inequalities are far, far greater. The poorest pensioners, or indeed even middle-income pensioners, are much worse off than well-off working-age people, and vice versa. If you actually want to do something about poverty, and I agree with David, we have treated indeed the government of which he was part, cut benefits for working-age families by a huge amount, and that is hugely increased poverty and disadvantage, and that we do do something about that. But the way to do that isn't to take money off the state pension, which, as you correctly said, isn't particularly generous. It's to tax rich pensioners, and you don't do that by, rich pensioners, people like me when I retire shortly. For example, I'll have I'll be very well off in my retirement.
Please mind the speed limit.
Ending the triple lock will do me little harm at all. What you want to do, if you want to get money out of people like me, well-off pensioners, in order to tackle the real problems of poverty we have, is to do things like taxing capital gains properly, taxing residential property, inheritance tax when people die, and so on. It's applying national insurance to the earnings of people who are above working age, which of course currently we don't do at all. All of those would hit rich pensioners. They hit a lot harder than ending the triple lock would. And unlike ending the triple lock, they would disadvantage poor and lower and middle income pensioners.
I hear what you say in terms of income, and I've always thought it was a bit odd that national insurance wasn't applied to people over the age of, whatever the retirement age is for different people at the moment. But of course, for many pensioners who you and I would describe as rich, they're asset rich, not cash rich, aren't they? And that's, I remember all the argument about the mansion tax all those years ago, and all of the pensioners who were complaining, yes, I may have a house that's worth 5 million, but I haven't got any money in the bank. And you sort of almost have to get an onion out of your pocket in that situation, I suppose. But there will be a lot of people in that position, won't there, who are asset rich but not cash rich.
That's right, and that's why, we have had proposals that would deal with that in a sensitive way, attuned to people's circumstances, by both parties, actually, in the past. They always end up being labelled by the other party as a death tax or a dementia tax, of course. But actually, I think that is the right thing to do. I don't think, you shouldn't force people to sell their houses just, in order to pay tax while they're alive. But that doesn't mean that you can't take a charge on the value of their house. So what you can, I think, say to people is, no, you cannot benefit from the NHS, from social care, and from everything else, and expect to pass the full or most of the value of your house onto your kids, so that they are much better off than people whose parents aren't rich, aren't asset rich the way you are. And I think that is fair, and at some point political parties are going to have to grasp the nettle, hopefully collectively, because of course if one does it, the other one will slag them off, as we've seen in the past.
Well, the most shocking thing that you've said this morning is the anywhere near retirement age. I can't believe that.
Well, I'm not going to be retiring anytime soon.
Thank you very much indeed. That's Professor Jonathan Portes there, Professor of Economics at King's College London. Well, you can see why this is a real dilemma for people in government, whether they're civil servants, whether they're politicians, who've got to come up with the answers to how to fund pensions properly and how to fund pensioners properly. And I think you've got to do it with a tremendous amount of respect, because people who've reached pensionable age do expect the state to treat them fairly and often think that it doesn't. So what would you do to change the way that we treat our pensioners? Would you be in favour of abolishing the triple lock, which Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak have both said will be cast iron election promises in their manifestos, or are there other ways to do it? 0345 6060 973. It's 16 minutes past 11.
LBC. When Brian and Sheila from Worthing sold their car with Motorway, they got more money. They then used that extra money to buy a camper van so that their dog Bruce could enjoy a lot more nature. Bruce, come here, boy. So, Bruce, are you happy your owners used Motorway? Oh, Bruce, you can't use language like that on the radio. Sell your car the more money way, where 84% of sellers sold for more. Motorway. Validated against 2 independent sources. Visit motorway.co.uk/claims.
First times. Remember those? Like the thrill of being chased by waves for the first time. Now imagine the thrill of skimming through the fjords on a high-speed rib on a Saga ocean cruise. Or even the joy you'll feel with our Love It First Time guarantee. If you don't love all the incredible first times on your first Saga ocean cruise, we'll give you your money back. 2025 season now on sale. Search Saga Cruises. Experience is everything. Port must be made in first 72 hours or 48 hours if cruise is 7 nights or less. Full terms apply. Over 50s only.
One coat everywhere, so you paint. One coat everywhere. From Ronseal. Does exactly what it says on the tin. Obviously, it can't be used literally everywhere. Surfaces may need prepped. See tin for limitations.
When it comes to maximizing your savings, timing is everything. And now is the perfect time to take advantage of your full allowance with a new Cuffling Innovative Finance ISA. You could earn up to 10.25% tax-free interest gross per annum over a 1-year term. It's fee-free with loan secured against property. Visit cufflink.com, Kuflink. Your capital is at risk. Tax rules apply to IF ISAs and may be subject to change. Cufflink is authorised and regulated by the FCA.
Really? Come on, let's go.
Hear that? That's the sound of my customers leaving.
When your broadband doesn't work, neither does your business.
Will Sky Business keep me up and running, no matter what?
With 4G backup and our Stay Connected guarantee, better believe it. Let our dedicated Sky Business team handle your switch today.
That's more like it.
Subject to availability. For T's and C's, visit skybusiness.com.
This is LBC with Ian Dale. Call 0345 6060 973.
11:18 on LBC. We're talking about the pensions triple lock and wondering whether you think that Keir Starmer is right to commit to keeping it in Labour's next election manifesto. Let's go to Alex in Derry, Londonderry. Alex, hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Ian, I think there's a few things that's been forgotten here. The pensioners who have got the maximum years are getting something in the region of just over £1,000 a month. Right, okay, that said, if you have a private pension on top of that, well, that's taxed, of course, as you probably know.
Yeah.
But the main point of my query is this. Do they appreciate that this has all been paid for by part of the NHS contributions? There is a part of that which is for pensions. And frankly, people who have completed, say, 40 years service, I mean, they've paid a lot towards the pension. It's not a freebie. It's not a giveaway like the Prime Minister at present likes to give money all over the place to pay for the immigrants to get taken out of the country at millions of pounds when it's not going to work. Sorry to bring that into it, but they have money to spend on what isn't necessary. Oh, and also advancing our military. That's great. That's mine. People can starve, but never mind as long as we've got plenty of soldiers. No, I think it's appalling, and I certainly would definitely keep that, what the Labour chap is talking about. Why wouldn't you keep it? You tell me why it shouldn't be kept, actually. You seem to know quite a lot about it.
Well, David Willett's told you that side of the argument, so I'm not going to repeat it.
What do you expect of him to tell us? Come on. He's a conservative and a die-hard one. So what's he going to tell us?
Well, he told you, so I don't need to repeat it, do I?
Well, yes, you do, because I must have heard it.
Well, basically, the argument is that it's costing a lot of money, which the country can't afford, and it's going. Look, if you want me to give you the case, let me at least give it to you before you then criticise it. The point is, and this is the point that I made at the beginning of the hour, is that pensioners as a whole, and I emphasise that as a whole, are the richest part of our society. So therefore, the argument goes, why would you give them special treatment compared to younger elements of society? And as David Willett says, sort of younger people, I think, do feel shortchanged at the moment because they feel that they're not getting the support that they need, that people who are now of pensionable age did get when they were younger.
Right. That is quite some argument. So the pensioners are the richest part of our society. Where's the evidence to support that?
Well, I haven't got it in front of me, but it's generally recognised that overall, if you divide the age groups up into 10 or 20 year sections, and it's quite natural that they would be because they've built up capital over the period of their working life. I don't say this as a criticism in any shape or form.
Yes, well, they've built up the capital. A lot of them have not had capital to build up on. But if I'm building up my capital, it's because I'm depriving myself of something less important, perhaps, unlike the youngsters who are into drugs, and I don't know what they're not into. And it's up to their families to make sure that everything's working, not the pensioners who have worked all their lives.
I kind of think you lost the argument when you said that they're all into drugs.
Say that again?
I think you kind of lost the argument when you basically used a complete generalisation to assert that the younger generations are all into drugs or whatever they're into.
Well, perhaps, yes, but the point I'm getting to here is the pensioners you refer to, a lot of them have put a lot of money to one side for their old age, and they're taxed on it anyway. You're taxed on the pension.
Yeah,
you're
right.
Nothing. And by the way, the money we have spent on the NHS for our pensions, by the way, has already been taxed. So we're being taxed on what we already paid for.
Can I just say that the money, what you term as the money we're paying for the NHS, it's actually national insurance, which has always covered the health service, pensions, and welfare benefits.
Right. Well, there's a percentage of that goes to pensions.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a big percentage.
Say that again?
A big percentage. If you look at the
where are the facts? Where's the evidence to support all this? How much is it we're talking about?
The whole pensions budget, I think I'm right in saying, I'm not going to guarantee this is right. People can easily Google it, but I think I'm right in saying that the pensions budget is well in excess of £200 billion a year.
Oh, right. And there was no that wasn't part of the pensioners' tax when they were paying it.
Well, it's a misnomer to call it national insurance, actually, because it isn't a traditional insurance system where it all goes into a pot and then people are paid out of that pot. Actually, it's an extra tax, but politicians don't like to call it a tax for obvious reasons.
Yes, well, I'm wondering about the politicians, what salaries they're on, and what they'll be quite well paid.
Well, we know what salaries they're on because they're all published.
They're all whatever it is, I'm sure they'll be part of the richest part of our society.
Well, they're not actually. I mean, I think the MP's salaries are going up next year. Was it to 90,000? I think. Now, compared to an average salary, that is, of course, 3 times an average salary. But that doesn't put them in the sort of richest in society category.
Well, it certainly doesn't put the richest in society, according to you, are the pensioners. If I'm not mistaken, I won't play it back, but I think that's what you did say. So
yes, generally,
we will be on a pittance of what is it? I'm just looking to see 18,000 something a year, as opposed to what did you just say? 90. Wow, that's a lot, isn't it?
Well, I think you're comparing apples and oranges, if you don't mind me saying so.
Well, no, I'm comparing with yours. Look, you're telling me that the pensioners are the richest part of our society. I'm saying the richest part of our society will be people on high salaries, such as your 90,000 plus. I don't know what LBC pay their staff, what they're paying you. I don't know. I don't want to know. But I'm sure it's more than 18,000 a year.
I can confirm that, Alex. I can confirm that.
Right. Well, the richest in the society, I mean, that's the part that gets me puzzled. But so the pensioners are going to be the richest part of our society.
Well, in a sense.
Ian Dale, sorry.
Well, it's not according to me. It's according to official statistics. Yeah, I know. But all I'm doing is saying if you look at the ONS statistics where they divide people up into different age percentiles, it is the elderly who tend to be better off than any other group.
Ian, sorry, here we go again. If they're better off, it's because they've taken better care to save and to put money...
I'm not arguing. We're completely speaking at cross purposes here. I'm not arguing with that. I pay tribute to people who've saved money for their old age. It's what I do. And it's what most. If you have the means to do it, it is actually your responsibility to do it.
Well, then that's why they might become the richest, because they've taken the precautions to make sure that not necessarily the richest, but they're comfortably rich.
But the point is, I would rather that money from the taxpayer, money from the government, went to people who couldn't afford to live a normal lifestyle as pensioners, rather than it went to people who'd already made their own provisions.
And we're back to this again. Look, they put money to one side for their old age, and that's what they're doing. If the youngsters want to earn money and spend it on what they want to spend it on rather than their old age, look, when you're 30 or 20 or 40 for that matter, the last thing you're thinking about is your old age or your pension. You're enjoying yourself. You're having a good life. When you hit a certain age, let's say 40, then you've got to take it into consideration, which is what I did. Yeah. I had a particularly good job, not too very far from Whitehall as it happens, and I did quite well. But I had the sense at about 40-ish, kick your big minimum hang said to me, Alex, come on now, son, you've got to remember I got a decent sum of money. But it came out of money I had earned. I didn't spend it on holidays and going all around the world or whatever else. So you see, it's a question of, at that early age, get out and get a job and get on with it. And make a life for yourself at that age. You can't be relying on your mum and dad and your pensioners to pave the way.
Well, you see, that's what I think a lot of people do nowadays. They think, well, when mum and dad pop off, I'm going to get